When we create strings, especially to display something for the user, it's helpful to format it so that it looks good and conveys the information they need. For example, we might want to round numbers or display them in scientific notation. In Python, we do that with format strings, or F strings as we call them for short. Let's start by talking about rounding. I might have a variable that holds a value with a bunch of decimal places, such as number is 12.34567. I can print this out using an F string like this. I put an F, and then directly following it, I put the quote mark. The number is, and then in curly braces, I put the variable number. This tells the program to print the value of that variable. So let's run this, and you can see the number is right there. But what if this variable represented money in US dollars? It would be nice to put a $sign in there. Well, that's really easy. I can just put that right in my string right here before the curly brace. Now when I run it, I can see the number is 12.34567 with the $sign. But if this is money, I really only want to print 2 digits of precision after the decimal point. To do this, I can add what's called a format specifier after my variable name. What I do is I come in here right after the name and I add a colon, and then in this case, I'm going to put a dot to F. The dot is used because this is what happens after the decimal point. The 2 is how many digits we want shown, and the F tells it we want to display it as a fixed point number, or showing the decimals, rather than scientific notation. Now, when I run it, it will display the number differently. So let's run this and see. Sure enough, now it says 12.35. Notice it only shows 2 decimals, and it actually rounded it up. But there's something really important to recognize here. This does not actually change the number, only the way that it's displayed. If I print it again afterward, and I'll just print it right there with no F string, and run it, you can see the result down here. The original value of the number is unchanged in that variable. If I actually want to round the number and update the value in the variable, there's a function for that called round. So I could make another variable here. Number 2 is round. And then in here, I type the variable name and how many digits I want to round it to. So I'll round this one to 3. And now if I print out number 2, you can see the result here. This one now is rounded to 3 decimals. Let's run this one more time, but this time let's do it with the debugger so that we can verify exactly what's happening to our values. I'm going to put a breakpoint on the first line, and then I'll go ahead and run this with debugging. So now as I step through, I can see the variables stored over here in my watch window. When I print this out, notice again the number variable has not changed. On the other hand, number 2 has changed. It only has the 3 decimals there. In this example, I chose a different variable name, but if I want to update my original variable, I could have assigned it back to the same number, like this. Number is the rounded version of that number. When it comes to rounding and displaying numbers, the easiest way to do it is to use the format specifier in the F string, especially if you don't need to change the variable itself. In the case of displaying US dollars, we always want to show 2 decimal places. But round won't show 2 decimal places if the number has a 0 in the second decimal place after it's rounded. For example, number 3 is 12.3011. And now I'm going to create another variable, number 4, and I'm going to round number 3 to 2 decimals, just like that. And now I'll go ahead and print this out. The number is, and I'll put number 4 here, is number 4 so that we can see this. And I'll put my $sign there. And now when I run this, you'll see 12.3, because when it rounded, it would have been 0.30. So it's actually better to use the format specifier, and I can do that even in this case, .2f. And as I run this, you'll see, sure enough, now we're seeing that 0 at the end. With format specifiers, there are many other things that you can do. You can tell it to display a number in scientific notation, use a thousands separator, display leading zeros, and for other types of variables like dates, you can format how to display the months, days, and years. You can look up the details for all of these cases and more online.